Hi, happy Friday, and welcome back to Financial Wellness Fridays. I'm super excited to be back with all of you guys. I took a brief break so that I could catch up on some schoolwork, but I'm back and more excited than ever to share my best financial wellness tips with you guys. For today's video, I thought it'd be super awesome to talk about my 5 best budgeting tips. These budgeting tips I feel like are pretty generic, so they'll work for you no matter where you're at in your budgeting journey. Some of these tips you might have already been applying to your life, and some of them might be a new addition that you can add on. I also think that they're super beneficial no matter what style of budgeting you do, and I think that in the long run, they'll definitely help save you money and make you more financially independent. So my first budgeting tip, and one that's commonly included in many budgeting tips, is to track your spending. If you don't track your spending and you're not really sure what's going in and out of your account, then it's going to be really difficult for you to build a feasible budget for yourself. If you're not really sure how much you're spending on groceries, gas, electricity, and even things that you want like hair appointments and clothing, then you're not really going to be able to create a budget that works for you and works for your spending. Additionally, once you've already created your budget, if you don't track your spending, it's going to be impossible to see if you're actually keeping up with that budget, and it's also going to be really hard to see areas of improvement. So if you don't know how much you're spending on your wants every month, you're not really going to know where you can cut back if you need to start spending more on your needs every month. Tracking your spending also helps make you more accountable to yourself. It helps you make sure that you're meeting your budgeting goals, saving goals, and then meeting each of those allotments that you've set out for each specific part of your budget. It also helps you feel super accomplished at the end of the month if you do meet your goals. And one of the best ways to track your spending that I think is super easy is downloading an app like Mint that you can connect to a bank account that will automatically update your spending as it comes out of your bank account. But of course, you can also create your own budget that works for you through the spreadsheet model that I showed you guys a couple weeks ago. I'll link that down below if you want to see that and create your own budget so that you can track your spending. Because of course, tracking your spending is the first step towards successful budgeting. My second budgeting tip is to avoid using credit for things that you want. I understand that a lot of people need credit in order to purchase things that they need, such as cars and houses, but a lot of times we can avoid putting purchases on credit cards if we really consider whether it's a need or a want. And I believe living within your means really demonstrates this. If you live within your means, you only use credit in order to purchase things that you need. And sometimes can also include medical procedures and things like that. However, people that live within their means avoid using credit to purchase, plane tickets to Disneyland, Christmas gifts, and things like that. Because that way, you're really living within the income that you're bringing in and not having to rely on debt from others to buy things that you could probably live without. And this is a great way to save money because that way you're not having to pay back interest on things that you didn't really need in the first place. So I think it's super important to, of course, use the credit when you need it, but try to avoid it when you don't. The third tip that I have to offer is one that I learned early on and is a lesson that I will carry on with me for a very long time. And that is to consider the long-term implications of long-term loans. When I went to go purchase my first car at 18 years old, I was still living with my parents due to COVID. So I didn't have a lot of living expenses like rent and utilities. And so I thought I had a bunch of money, excess money, in order to pay for a car payment. So I was like, yeah, I can go and buy a car that's going to cost me like $300, $400 a month. And my mom was like, wait. If you do that and you take out a 5-year loan for a car, you have to be considering the next 5 years of your life. When you move out and are paying bills, are you still going to have an excess of $500 to spend on that vehicle? Instead, you need to consider where you're going to be at over the course of those years and make sure you're prepared to make payments on that loan for the length of the loan. And this is a lesson that was really important because it made sure that I purchased a car that I would be able to afford for the length of the loan. And this is important when you're taking out big loans like cars and mortgages that you're going to have for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is to consider where your financial situation may be, especially worst case scenario, when you take out those loans so that you're fully prepared no matter what happens and you won't have to default on those loans, declare bankruptcy, make late payments, or anything like that. And you can keep your credit score good. So I think it's really important to sit down and make a long-term budget that you think will work for you even in the worst case scenario before you make a big purchase and commit to making those payments monthly for the next umpteen years of your life. My fourth tip is also a super popular budgeting tip, and that is pay yourself first. This has to do a lot with saving, and especially saving for retirement or future large purchases like a house. When you pay yourself first, that means you're taking your hard work and you're saving some of those funds for future you. Maybe when life isn't as great as it's going right now, or when you're ready to make that purchase on a house, or even ready to retire. One of the best ways that you can pay yourself first is by automating your savings. So one way that I do this is having a portion of my paycheck taken out and put into my 401k for retirement by my employer. Another way that people do this is once their direct deposit hits on whatever day they get paid, they set up an automatic transfer into their savings account. Or you can even have your company, if they will, deposit some of your paycheck into your savings and some into your checking. This is super helpful if you find it difficult to save money, because that way you're not even seeing the money that's going into your savings account because it goes right there automatically. My fifth tip, and one that I think is probably one of the most important, is to expect the unexpected. And this really has to do with building a solid emergency savings, which we've talked about a couple of times on this channel. And I actually have 2 emergency savings for different purposes. My first emergency savings is 6 months of my living expenses, just in case something were to happen to me, or if I were to lose my job, I won't have to take out loans in order to continue living in my apartment and paying my bills. And then I also have a car emergency savings account. That has come in handy when I've had to make really expensive repairs on my car. That way I don't have to dip into a credit card or anything like that and take out a loan. Because I expected the unexpected for my car, my air conditioning breaking down in June in Arizona. I was able to get it fixed and not have to worry about taking out a loan. So that was something that I was super grateful for, that I had done and prepared myself for in advance. And I know that if something were to happen to my job, that I would be super grateful to myself for having saved, expected the unexpected, and having an emergency savings prepared. So that goes hand in hand with paying yourself first, just making sure that you're building up that emergency savings before you start saving for a big purchase. That way when the big purchase comes along and you're taking out a loan, that you have a little bit saved up just in case something happens, so that you're still able to make those payments on the loan. And those are my 5 best budgeting tips. And I have so many more budgeting tips that I'm super excited to share with you guys, but this is a really important first 5 steps to kind of shift your mindset into the budgeting and get ready to go and saving and reaching towards financial independence. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. Like this video as always if you thought it was useful, and subscribe to stick around to learn more about financial independence. I'm super excited to get back into the swing of things and help you guys reach financial independence along myself. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.